Hi, my name is Matt Kendricks. I'm the project lead for dSIPRouter. So today I'm going to talk to you about using Openclaw with dSIPRouter to detect call fraud or VoIP fraud. So you can easily do this by yourself, right? You can actually go into dSIPRouter's console, click on CDRs, and you can download the CDRs and kind of do it manually. But what we really want to talk about today is really how do we automate this? How do we get it to a point that Openclaw, acting as your assistant, will be able to do this in an autonomous fashion? Because we all know, as being VoIP operators, it's a lot of things that needs to happen. So we want you to start using these AI tools to be able to offload some of your tasks. So we actually came up with a full-blown architecture on how to use Openclaw in order to automate and minimize some of your daily tasks. We call these like workflows that we pre-built. We've built especially for and specifically for VoIP providers like yourself. But I'll share that later. We can talk about it. If you want to know more information about that, please shoot me an email or my information will be below. But let's jump into what we came here to talk about today, which is fraud detection. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we want to do here is kind of explain to you my Openclaw setup. So for me, Openclaw is configured on a VM sitting in DigitalOcean. And our communication channel that we use is Slack. Now, the reason why we pick Slack is because I like the ability to have things segmented in channels. But more importantly, is because our whole company uses Slack. So this became just a natural thing for us to want to use Slack. So what I did was created a channel called Fraud Detection. And this channel is where all of our activities around like fraud detection will occur, right? All the conversations and talking to Openclaw, any scheduled tasks that I have it do, I will have it do it inside of that channel. That way it just keeps that whole conversation, that whole thread together. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a couple of things. One, I'm going to grab a skill that I've built that basically tells Openclaw how to actually go look for fraudulent calls. And then once I actually get that set up, I'm going to actually test it. And then from there, I'm going to actually set it up as a scheduled task so that it runs every morning and it's going to basically output the results into this channel. So let's go ahead and first let's take a look at the actual skill itself. So the skill here is under dSIPRouter skill. I'll put the actual GitHub link inside of the notes here. But and also we're kind of reorganizing this particular repo a little bit. This actually, the dSIPRouter skill was initially built to basically tell any of the AI agents how to interact with dSIPRouter. So all the different APIs. But what we're doing in this particular video is talking about how to handle fraudulent calls and how to look for fraudulent calls. So I created a workflows directory, and then we put that under we put dSIPRouter fraud underneath that, and then there's a skill MD file. So what you'll if you haven't been playing with these AI agents or any of these AI tools, the one thing that if you haven't been playing with it, one thing you'll kind of start noticing when you do start playing with them is that they all use markdown files, right? So as developers or as people that's in IT, you probably have dealt with markdown before, but pretty much you just kind of tell, you kind of describe how things should happen. So in this dSIPRouter fraud detection skill, I won't read it all, but you lay out the purpose, when to use it. So when somebody actually, makes requests on, through one of the chat UIs, they ask certain questions. This will kind of give it a clue if this skill should be used or not. Here goes the requirements. And the requirements are used in situations where it'll prompt you if you don't have certain things set. So if you say, hey, I want to do, some fraud detection, it's going to start prompting you for, what's your dSIPRouter API URL? What's your dSIP token? What time window do you want to look after? What's the scope? So what endpoint group, or do you want to do all the endpoint groups? And then also it's going to, if you wanted more access and want to have more details, it's going to ask you for maybe some credentials to be able to access maybe the source of the data. And then it goes through the endpoints, and then it's going to go through the workflow, which is probably kind of important. And the word workflow and skills is sometimes used in an interchangeable way. So when I talk about a workflow, it is really just talking about getting Openclaw to go through a set of tasks in order to complete a task. And so, or to complete a workflow. I'm trying not to use the same word to explain what I'm trying to give a definition for, but typically, and the thing is that a skill can be a one particular task, or it could be multiple tasks, which then that becomes what I consider a workflow. So in this particular skill, there's multiple things that needs to be checked, and inside of this particular skill.md file, it lays out what that workflow is, and then it goes through some example commands, and then what the output should look like, and then there's certain notes and things to that as well. So this is kind of a layout of this. And by the way, I didn't build this skill.md file. I basically told Openclaw, hey, I want to build something that looks for fraudulent calls. We went through a set of iterative chat conversations, and once I got to a point that I actually liked what it was producing, then I said, hey, output me a skill.md file that basically reflects how to actually do this particular workflow. So that's how that happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, first what we're going to do is going to say, hey, take this particular URL, grab the dSIPRouter fraud detection workflow, and we want to use it, basically. And we're going to direct it to use this skill that we've already built. So let's go back. Now that I kind of explained to you how this skill.md file was created, let's go back and say, let's say, use this skill to do fraud detection. The URL of the dSIPRouter server is mac.test.dSIPRouter.net. The API key, and this is bad practice putting the API key in here. There's other ways to give it an API key, but I'm going to change this API key when we get done anyway, so it's not a big deal. So this is a test box anyway, so let me grab it. All right. And I'm going to say, look for fraudulent. I can't spell. Fraudulent calls on the test ABC endpoint. Okay. All right. So we'll let it go work on that really quickly and see what it comes up with. And while this is actually working, I'm going to jump over and just show you what our dSIPRouter box looks like today, and how the CDRs are laid out, just as a refresher for you if you don't remember. So if we go to CDRs, in question, I'm looking at the test ABC endpoint group. And you can see there's some suspicious calls here. We're using this box to do testing and validation. So we're doing a lot of calls, and these calls are sometimes 0 seconds, 12 seconds, and there are a lot of them from the same phone number. So this is a good one to kind of simulate a fraudulent behavior. But once again, you can tell it what fraudulent behavior it should be looking for. So let's go back. It came back. And let's see what it's saying to us. Let's look at the reply here. All right, so it says, let's make this a little bit bigger so we can just read it. It says, all right, it says use the dSIPRouter fraud detection skill workflow. It laid out the workflow for us. Here goes the host, the scope. It grabbed the gateway group for us, which was 32, the CDR API, and it looked at calls starting in February the 20th all the way to the 12th. Yeah, not sure where it got those dates from, but hey, all right. It said, hey, I got a CDR volume of 75 records, high failure abandon rate, basically has 0 second call durations. Here goes the concentration patterns, right? Here goes the source, 50 calls, primary and destination, blah, blah, blah. It gives you all of the potential patterns of calls that may be fraudulent calls. And it even gives suggested mitigations and next steps in order to fix this particular issue, or to at least narrow down what's going on. So now that we have this skill enabled, I want it to run every day, right? So I want to say, create a scheduled task that runs at 9 a.m. Eastern Time and provides a report in this channel. For endpoint group 32. Now, I don't have to just say this for endpoint group 32. I can say for all the endpoints if I want to. But just for this particular use case, I'm going to say endpoint group 32. So what it's going to do is going to create us a task that's going to run every morning, and it's going to output it in this particular channel. And so now, when I wake up in the morning and I get to the office, and I'll basically see this channel will be lit up, and I'll be able to walk in and actually see, how many fraudulent calls we have, any issues, any patterns. Now, I mean, there's going to be situations where, the actual what it detects isn't really a fraudulent call, but I at least want to have something that actually gives me some potential warning that there may be some issues going on. So, all right, so it actually scheduled the task for me, and it gave it the name. Here goes the time, and it basically says, here goes the delivery. It's going to post directly to fraud detection, and then the job ID for it as well. So this was a fairly quick process to set up fraud detection from Openclaw. I actually have a more detailed video. If you DM me under this video, I can give it to you. And it actually goes through like my process for actually creating that skill.md file. And if you need help setting up Openclaw to work with dSIPRouter or work with other parts of your VoIP infrastructure, send me a quick notes or DM me. We have a set of processes and a set of workflows that we're building out just for voice providers. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care.